Hey, what's up guys, another video here. So today I want to give you the updates on the stimulus package and see where Senate Republicans and House Democrats are having issues with. So first off, let's talk about a very interesting provision in the Republican HEALS Act. So the first is there's actually something in the bill that includes a $1.75 billion to fund the design and construction of a new FBI headquarters. And this fact made it into the bill underscores how important White House negotiators viewed this provision. For more than a week, the idea has infuriated Senate GOP negotiators who thought at one point they'd gotten it off the table, only for it to come back this weekend. So this is a very kind of outlandish proposal in this bill to have 1.75 billion allocated for a new FBI building. I mean, is that really needed at this point in time? I mean, of course, there's already an existing FBI building, and there were talks to move the FBI building to maybe Northern Virginia, but I don't think it's really appropriate at the time. But this is a case where there's an earmark in the bill where negotiators are wanting to get what they want in order to get a bill passed. So I think this is a huge issue because this is something that's totally unnecessary, but they're trying to sneak it in because 1.75 billion out of a $1 trillion or a $3 trillion package is just a drop in the bucket. But again, I do not endorse this at all, to have this amount of money allocated to something that's unnecessary at this point in time. And they claim that is to fight the illness in some capacity, but I don't see the great relevance in the FBI having a new building to do anything to help the situation with the illness. So I have no idea why it's included, but of course it's a special interest and an earmark in a bill that they're trying to pass so they get what they want. Okay, so there's hang-ups between the Democrats and Republicans regarding the federal unemployment enhancement. Democrats extended or want to extend the current $600 federal unemployment enhancement through the end of the year. Republicans propose dropping it to a flat rate of $200 for 2 months, which I covered yesterday, and then transitioning to roughly 70% of prior earnings model when combined with state assistance. So I think the Democrats in the House are willing to work with the flat amount because the issue was that the $600 federal unemployment, it was applied across all states. So, at some points or some cases, people are earning a lot more in unemployment and it's a disincentive for them to work. But, I understand why they went with a flat amount, 600 per week, because, it kind of covers all bases, especially for people who are living in high cost of living areas. So obviously, if you're living in the Bay Area in California, the $600, it may or may not be enough, but if it's reduced to $200, I mean, it's probably not going to cover your living expenses if you're in a high cost of living area. Again, Bay Area, possibly areas in Washington, D.C., where I'm at, in other areas that require, a lot of rent or mortgage payment to live. So I understand why it was done in the first place, but again, it's creating a case where you have a disincentive for people to work, especially of very low wages, to actually return back to work. But we'll see what happens with this. If it is reduced to $200, then it's more on the Republican side, but if they are negotiating between $200 and $600 a week and they meet in the middle, they're going to compromise on that amount. Okay, next order of business is for state and local funding. Democrats include a $1 trillion in funds for states and localities in their proposal. It is a central focus of Democrats in both chambers, and there's a coalition with major juice behind the push, from governors, mayors to major business groups and unions. However, Republicans did not include any new funds in the proposal, but did include more flexibility for the use of funds already dispersed in the first aid package. So this is going to be a huge issue between the House Democrats and the Senate Republicans, because the proposal that the Democrats initially did in the HEROES Act, they had this $1 trillion for the state and localities. However, Republicans don't want to disperse more money. Obviously, again, they are more fiscally conservative and they don't want to add to the deficit. So this is going to be a major point. I believe if this is to go through, then they'll have to have a negotiation and a compromise So it may fall in between the range of possibly 500 billion or maybe 250 billion. But they have the compromise, and again, it won't pass the House if there is no type of assistance to the state and local governments. So I believe they're going to meet in the middle with this if this is to pass by August 7th. And again, this may be a very contentious issue if it doesn't get passed by August 7th. Instead, it's going to roll back out to sometime in early September. So the next order of business is for rental and food assistance. Democrats have made it clear that these are priorities for the talks, and there's no corresponding provision or provisions in the GOP proposal. So again, this is going to be another issue for rental. So this is going to be another issue for rental and food assistance, because the proposed bill by the Senate Republicans doesn't have this. Again, they'll have to meet in the middle again, because if the Democrats are really pushing for this type of rental and food assistance and nothing's provided by the GOP, then they're going to meet in the middle. Otherwise, it's going to be extended way out to early September. So again, it's something that the Republicans have to compromise on, as opposed to the Democrats, because they have to meet in the middle, because the Republicans have the other end of the spectrum where they're not going to be providing any assistance at all, according to this new HEALS Act proposal. Okay, so next order of business is for liability protections. This is a must for Mitch McConnell. He's made it clear that no bill will come to the Senate floor without a liability protection for businesses, schools, healthcare providers, and nonprofits. Democrats did not include liability protections in their proposal and have pushed for OSHA regulations to protect workers. So this is going to be a huge issue, because the Republicans really want to push for business liability protection. And again, there's going to be a large burden of proof on the consumer to prove that they got the illness when they were frequenting a business. But again, the Republicans want to err on the side of caution in the case that these providers, these businesses, they get sued by clients or consumers, or if the healthcare providers have some kind of malpractice with liability. Let's say you have many people in a room and people get infected with the illness versus people who already have the illness while they're waiting. Things like that. Maybe people don't have proper PPE, and then the consumer finds that, oh, hey, this business is being negligent, and they want to sue the business for getting the illness while they're frequenting that business. Again, they have to prove that they weren't going to other places and they were exposed to the illness at this particular instance. But it is very tricky, but I understand why the Republicans want to have some money allocated for this, so businesses are protected. Because again, if you have businesses opening or staying open and people continue to get the illness while these businesses are open, it's a very real possibility that some liability will pass on to the businesses if there's a sudden spike in the illness, in a particular instance. Lastly, we have education. Republicans included $105 billion for schools in their proposal, including $70 billion for K-12, $30 billion for colleges and universities. And the K-12 funding will be split, with 1/3 of the funds being deployed immediately to schools on a per capita basis, and et cetera, et cetera. However, the Democrats have pushed for more than $400 billion for schools and object to tying any funds to schools bringing students back for in-person classes. So again, this is going to be a compromise again. So if the Republicans want $100 billion and the Democrats want $400 billion, again, they're probably going to meet in the middle, maybe between $200, $250 billion when it comes to education. Of course, the Democrats are pushing not to have in-person classes. However, the Republicans are probably going to want to have the in-person classes. So again, this is a moot point somewhat, because this is going to vary state by state. And if there is a spike in the illness with children, then of course the administration should, or the state administration should err on having online classes. But again, it's going to lead to problems with daycare and things like that, because parents can't watch their kids if given their circumstances, essential workers or working from home. So there's a lot of issues at play, and this is going to vary state by state. So again, it's kind of a moot point, but I think they had to compromise between $100 billion and $400 billion, and let's see where they meet in the middle. Okay, hopefully guys, this was a little helpful. Again, a lot of things are up in the air still. So again, I'm not too optimistic hopefully this gets resolved by early September and you get your stimulus check by late September. And that's my prediction, that people will get their stimulus checks by late September because of how many issues are being hung up currently. It's very, very doubtful that it'll pass by August 7th, but we'll see. And again, the very best case scenario is that you'll get your checks by late August, assuming you qualify for them. So guys, hopefully you guys liked the video. Please like and subscribe. And please check out the link below for my Amazon book, Austerity Millionaire. It explains how I, at 35, became a multimillionaire through having a regular salary job that ranged from $40,000 to $81.5K in annual income. So guys, please check that out and stay tuned for the next video.